5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to Our Voices. I have a special guest with me. He is a teacher here in Kanawha County Schools. I was on social media and I saw something that was very alarming here in Kanawha County. And this gentleman, he is the author of this message that he put out. And I want to talk to him about this. His name is Mr. Howard Mize. Howard, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Ray. How about yourself?
I'm doing fine. I'm doing fine. Hey, thank you for coming on here. Again, the alarm has sounded. And when I saw the tweet, the title alone just kind of blew me away. And the title of this is called Confronting White Nationalism.
Yeah, in more specific, Ray, it's called Confronting White Nationalism in Schools.
In schools, okay.
Yes.
Before we get into the meat of this, please tell the viewers something about Howard Mize.
I'm a native West Virginian. I was born in Beckley, grew up just right outside of Beckley. Lived here most of my life. I've traveled around to other parts of the country for sure, and done a number of different things, and finally just kind of landed as a teacher. And got my degree to be a teacher a little later in life, and been in my mid-30s. And I've been doing that for about the past 11 years.
All right. Ready to go to work?
I'm ready when you are.
Okay. Howard, confronting white nationalism in schools. What led you to want to discuss this issue here?
Well, I tell you what led me into it really, Ray, is to I read an article one day. I'm not sure, it might have been The Intercept, it might have been Salon, I'm not really sure which one, but it was an article talking about the FBI recognizing the threat of white nationalists infiltrating police forces, trying to get people to become police officers and help them out in that way. And there was a quote in the article from a gentleman by the name of Eric K. Ward. And he's the one that is partly the author of the training that I do, the Confronting White Nationalism in Schools, for the Western State Center, which is it's a civil rights organization based in the Pacific Northwest.
Howard, when we look at this situation, when we talk about the situation as a whole, and I remember it was like a hearing, and the FBI director said that the biggest threat to this country is white supremacy. So we look at white nationalism and how it has really picked up, not in just West Virginia, but throughout the nation.
Yeah.
Some folks say that, and I'm talking broadly right now, but I'm going to narrow it down to the school system. Some say that it started with Trump under his administration. I beg to differ. I believe that it started with the Obama administration because, again, a lot of hatred because they didn't like an African-American being president.
I think you're right about that, Ray.
And once Trump became president, I feel that his campaign speech played on the fears of folks who did not like Black folks.
Mm-hmm.
So we look at how white supremacy has infiltrated into the police ranks. We have looked into situations where they are in full military gear. I remember under the Obama administration, there was a Black Lives Matter movement here at the Capitol. And on the steps of the Capitol, and at the end of the street, there were a group of guys in military gear, bulletproof vests, AR-15s, and everything. And I found myself not worried, but just kind of concerned, because I'm thinking to myself, how did we get this far after so many years of segregation? Because again, we're looking at 246 years of slavery, 92 years of Jim Crow. In 1968, 1968, the LBJ signed the Fair Housing Act. So we thought that, okay, maybe racism is over and everything, and just so. But I mean, it has picked up. I mean, it has reared its ugly head again, Howard.
Yes.
But now it has infiltrated into the school system.
And what? Oh, I'm sorry, Ray. You go ahead.
No, you go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say it's part of what the training involves is because what white nationalists like to do, they like to target young kids. And so part of the training is being able to recognize the signs of recruitment, or if a kid is starting to explore white nationalist ideas and try to stop them from going even deeper into it, and kind of nip it in the bud and get to it early.
Howard, I know that watching videos on social media like TikTok, there have been a number of instances where, say in basketball games, if a predominant basketball team is playing a predominant white basketball team, and students from the white section, are making racist comments, and there's little to no repercussion.
Mm-hmm.
And there have been a situation that took place here in Kanawha County. So what do you say about that? Because again, like you said, this particular presentation that you have, you say you want to get to the kids at an early age. Where's the cutoff? Do you say, okay, it's too late that they have reached high school? It's too late for them. Where's the cutoff point, in your opinion?
I don't know if there really is a cutoff point. I think the earlier you can intervene, the better, obviously. But you still have to try. That's part of the training that I do. And the whole training is trying to make people aware of the Western State Center has a toolkit that you can download for free on their website. And it talks about how to recognize the signs to see, if maybe someone is being recruited by white nationalist organizations, or like you said, TikTok and all kinds of places, they can get exposed to this stuff in so many different ways. And you click on a link, and next thing you know, you're going down this rabbit hole of one thing after another and after another and after another. But part of the training talks about, we need to look out for the disadvantaged kids, the minorities and things like that, and care about them. But we also need to pay some attention to these kids who are probably getting recruited by these organizations or falling into this information and following that information to a bad place, because they may be hard to reach, but we should still attempt to reach them.
Howard, when we say, as you say, we attempt to reach them, I believe everything begins at home.
Yeah, I agree with you on that, right?
Everything, and you have some that will say, there's some badass kids out there that comes from these homes and everything. So you blame it on the parents. What can a teacher do to prevent this from happening? Because, and I will say, there are some parents out here. I'm sorry, not parents, but some teachers. I know they're there just to teach. As far as other issues outside of what's in the curriculum, some may feel like that's none of my concern. I'm here to teach, and that's that. Does a teacher plays a part as far as in the thought process?
I think it is, it's imperative for teachers to look out for this type of stuff. The communities kind of reflect their schools and vice versa. So, if you're seeing something like that in the school, it's out in the community already. So the teachers are with the kids for all day long. And we interact with them on a regular basis all the way through the school year. So we see them a lot and we hear them a lot, even if they don't think we're paying attention. I always tell my students this. I was like, it may not look like I'm paying attention, but I'm pretty good at making it look like that and still listening. So you can pick up stuff. And it's, if I hear somebody say something, I'm going to have a talk with them. I had an incident just the other day. That I think it was Monday, but the day before I did this training for the Kanawha County Schools Inclusive Schools Conference. I had a young lady who made an anti-Semitic remark. I don't think she was really trying to be anti-Semitic, but she basically told another girl that they were talking about their facial features, and she told this other girl, she said, "You have what I would call a Jewish nose." And I didn't say anything right away. She came over to borrow a pencil from me, and I just called her. I was like, "Hey, I heard what you said about so-and-so's nose." I was like, that's an anti-Semitic trope, that Jewish people have big noses. I was like, not all Jewish people have big noses. And I know a lot of non-Jewish people who have big noses. So I was like, and I said, that's not something you should be saying. I was like, that's not a good thing. And, I didn't yell at her. I didn't get angry with her. There was a little bit of anger inside of me because the mother of my children is Jewish, and we decided to raise the boys Jewish. So I do have a little bit of sensitivity to that and look for it. And like I said, I don't think she was trying to be it. And I'm sure, in my opinion, I think she heard it at home. And she probably hears that sort of stuff, around her home.
Howard, that's the first thing we say, that when someone makes a comment out in public, especially when it comes to the kids, again, as mentioned, they probably got it from home. Mm-hmm. And if, of course, if a teacher oversees it, then again, yes, I really feel that something needs to be said. Are there any limitations on what the teacher can do besides a talk? Or does it go to administration level?
In my opinion, Ray, it depends on the situation, I believe. Like this situation, I didn't think I needed to take it to my administration. I think the girl was just really misinformed and didn't realize what she was saying, and how it could affect others. And I think in that moment, use it as a learning moment and say, this is why this is bad. This is why this is something you shouldn't be using. But again, I think it depends on the situation. We did have a kid last year who made a comment in the hallway. I didn't hear it. I heard about it, and it was referred to the administration. He called another kid a dirty Jew. And that was referred to administration by another teacher. And the kid was reprimanded. I'm not sure what his discipline was, but I know that kid. I know his family. Not somebody I would ever expect to be anti-Semitic in any way. And I'm pretty sure he probably heard it on a gaming platform or in a video somewhere or on YouTube or something like that, because the white nationalist organizations target those areas a lot. Where they know the kids are, that's where they're going to be.
Howard, you have your iPad with you.
Yes.
Some information. Please share with me some things that you feel that can be helpful to someone who's listening and who's watching, that they can apply this at home, like a certain technique. What can they do?
One of the biggest things, and the toolkit itself, Ray, it runs you through, it gives you different scenarios that you may encounter. maybe finding some white nationalist markings on a desk or a wall or something along those lines, and how to address that. One of the first things is, if it's safe to do so, document it, and then, take it to your administration and try to investigate it and find out where it came from, who may have done it, and take it from there. I think one of the big things for me from going through the training and reading the toolkit is where they separate white supremacy and white nationalism. White nationalism.
I have a question.
Yes.
What's the difference between the two?
And that is a good question, because that's what they delineate right there. Now, they do get used in combination and in the same way a lot of times, which is fine. But they break it down in the training. White supremacy is systemic. So things like redlining and things like that are kind of embedded in our system as a whole to disenfranchise people of color and things like that. So they did the redlinings where people wouldn't sell houses to people of color in certain areas. And then you also have in certain cities they've run interstates through majority Black neighborhoods. And that's a systemic thing, and the voting rights stuff we're seeing recently. So that's all systemic, and that's built into the system, and that's what they kind of say white supremacy is. On the other hand, white nationalism is an organization to build political power so that they can remove or more or less get rid of minorities, people of color, Jewish people, people of the Muslim faith, LGBTQ community, and all of that. So the difference is that it's a power building organization. They're trying to build this political power so that they can take control. Whereas white supremacy is more of a systemic thing that and I don't want to say just like it's any better, but it's to hold people back and to keep them from advancing and successful.
Howard, give me a description of an exercise that you have.
Okay, well, let me look it up really quick on the toolkit, and I can go through that with you. All right, so that's the. Well, I thought I had it right here, Ray.
Take your time.
I am so sorry.
That's all right.
Because I keep clicking on the presentations because I've got several different versions of those. Okay, I'll tell you what. We'll go with one from the training, and what we usually do is we'll ask the group. All right, if you had if you were involved in this, how would you handle it, and then refer them to the toolkit itself. All right, so a scenario they present in the toolkit itself. Scenario one: a local neo-Nazi has been seen twice handing out flyers on campus. These same racist flyers have been appearing on cards and in front of lawns of homes near the school. All right. So simulation questions, we go through what should the most immediate response entail? All right. So one of the first things you want to do as far as the toolkit is concerned is to document and get it documented And so if there is an investigation needed, you can start looking into things. What secondary responses need to happen? Do we need to address this within the school, within the community? Obviously, you know, that sort of stuff needs to happen. And the toolkit does dive deeper into, you know, action steps that you can take. The resources you'll need in order to respond, you know, what's that going to entail? What challenges should we anticipate in the response? And how can this scenario inform future preventative efforts? So it's really based a lot around prevention and trying to, the toolkit is designed for educators to be able to look out for these types of things and hopefully head them off at the pass.
Howard, one of the things that has been talked about here, Reverend Matthew Watts brought up a study where Black kids are being suspended at a much higher rate than white kids. Mm-hmm. There was a study about that statewide. As we're looking at this particular project here, Confronting White Nationalism in Kanawha County Schools, do you feel that this can be effective throughout the other 54 counties in the state?
I think it could be effective anywhere we use it, Ray. Like I said, the Western States Center is a national civil rights organization. They're all over the country. So, you know, spreading that message and getting the information out to the people who are really around the kids for the majority of their time throughout the school year, I think is really important. And I think, you know, the younger, the better for the most part. We have one of the things they talk about in the toolkit is how they target young people again. I know I've mentioned that before because that is a big thing, because they realize that is their path to the political power they're seeking is to get these kids young and indoctrinate them into the whole white nationalist ideology.
This presentation that you gave, it was to some teachers, correct?
It was, like I said, it was the Inclusive Schools Conference for Kanawha County Schools. And there were people from all over the county. There were teachers, there were counselors, there were some administrators there. There were also people from the board office there.
How did they receive this presentation? The
people who came to my breakout session, and it was a breakout session, so I didn't get to present to everybody at the conference. We break out into different sessions. So I had probably 15, 20 people in my room for my presentation. And one of the ladies from the board office was there, and it was very well received. And you know, some of the information was startling to some of the people. They really didn't. I don't think it had ever really occurred to them before. We go through trainings in the beginning of the year. We go through trainings with the kids about racism, about bullying, and things like that. And so the toolkit itself is kind of built as you know, a support for that to kind of take those things a little bit further.
What type of responses or reactions did you see come from it? Because I guess when some folks, they don't realize that they have been exposed to it, or they don't realize that, oh, I didn't know I was doing this or doing that. What type of reactions did you see come from the people in your group?
I saw, you know, a number of people, you know, some of the things we talked about, they were like, oh, yes, I've seen this sort of thing before. And some of the things, you know, I threw out to them was really kind of surprised. Like I said, the difference between white supremacy and white nationalism was something that a lot of people don't think about. And honestly, I didn't before I went through the training myself to become a trainer for the toolkit, because they do get interchanged a lot. But again, white nationalist is about building political power. It's an ideology to build political power and take over things so that they can basically form a white ethno state here in this country. I did read a quote, And I think it kind of blew so much. And the examples I gave about, you know, the girl making the Jewish nose comment, the boy calling someone a dirty Jew, that blew them away as well. Because as they present it in the toolkit, white nationalism is really based on anti-Semitism. And, you know, I know you've heard about the flyers that have been dropped off in people's yards and everything. And so what they do is they lay everything at the feet of the Jewish community, saying, well, they're in charge of all of this. White nationalists even say that the whole civil rights drive back in the 60s and the 70s and everything was all orchestrated by Jewish people to create chaos and to, you know, the great replacement theory of, you know, Jews were trying to use the civil rights era to, you know, replace, you know, white Protestant people and move them out of the country in that way. They literally believe that the civil rights movement would never have happened had it not been, you know, pushed by the Jewish community. And I think that struck a lot of people.
Howard, in the school system, CRT.
Yes.
Yeah, some folks say there's no CRT. I call it so-called CRT. And the reason why I say it is because why are we now labeling Black history as CRT? I've had an individual with this one lady who she said that it's to separate the oppressors from the oppressed and trying to make the oppressors look like the bad guys.
Mm-hmm.
Does the teachings of CRT, does that fit into the realm of your presentation of confronting white nationalism in the schools?
You know, someone always brings that up because, you know, it's a hot button issue these days. And, you know, I'll always address it as, you know, people who throw that out there, they don't really know what CRT is. It's, you know, it's a graduate level course that was being taught in universities. It's a theory. And, you know, I'm a science teacher. So a theory is something based on evidence. It's an explanation for a phenomenon based on evidence. But, you know, nobody's teaching CRT, you know, graduate level classes in my school or in any of the schools that I know of. I think it's a way for people to try to scare others into thinking that they're going to be replaced by people of color, or they're going to be replaced by, you know, LGBTQ community. Again, I think it falls into that whole great replacement idea that white nationalists push, that we're trying to push out, you know, the white Protestant population and get rid of them. So I think it's used as a wedge to try to drive people apart, and especially people who have a lot more in common than they would suspect. You know, especially, you know, poor white folks who really, I mean, aren't any better off than poor folks, people of color, or of any other religion or any other race. So it's a way to kind of say, okay, you know, you white folks are over here, and we'll kind of be with you in theory. So it is used as a wedge, I think, to drive people apart.
Howard, I have a few more questions, then we'll let you go because I know you got to go somewhere, you know.
But it's the start of spring break, Ray. So
well, you got to go somewhere. Go to a nice place. You know, I mean, I'm not gonna mention it, but if you want to mention, you go right ahead. But I know you're going to a nice place.
Oh yeah. I'm gonna take off for Europe here in a couple of days, and
all right.
So I've got some work to do to get ready for that.
Howard, one more question. How effective? Well, I don't know if I asked this question. Have you seen a progress from the showing of this video and of this presentation. Should this be aired, and should it be aired to the community from a parent's perspective?
From parents' perspective, yeah, absolutely. I think part of the thing with me, Ray, is that I've presented it to people who are receptive to it. I've done it a couple of different times at the Inclusive Schools Conference. I did it this year. I did it last year that we've had it. I'm presenting to people from the board office in April. So for the most part, people are really receptive to the message and interested in learning about this sort of stuff. At some point, when I do this, out into the community as a whole, I'm sure there'll probably be some pushback somewhere. And the good thing about it is the toolkit kind of runs through that stuff as well. So it's great information to get out. Like I said, you can go to the Western States Center website and you can download the toolkit for yourself. It's a PDF document. It's free to download, and it has all the information in it. And if you're so inclined and you want to become a toolkit trainer too, they periodically do trainings where you can go through their trainings and become a trainer and do this information yourself.
Do they pay?
No.
Well, there goes that idea. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, right. I actually went through the training during COVID when we were locked up in the houses and stuff. So that's where I kind of found out about the training. I got an email from them. Hey, we're offering the training. So yeah. I went through it.
Okay. Howard, before I let you go, I want to give you 3 minutes. If you want to discuss anything that we have touched on that, you want to share your message to get folks to say, hey, listen, we call ourselves the United States of America.
Yes.
And one thing in particular is Kanawha County alone has become one big melting pot. Now, of course, outside of Kanawha County, it's a little different, as we both know, as some will call it rural areas. What can folks do? What would you like to see in, say, the next 6 months to a year? Where do you see us standing as far as race relations, the functions of the school system between the teacher and the student, and the communities alone? Just share what you want to talk about. Anything that I missed asking you. You put in your words. I'll let you go.
All right. Well, I'll tell you what. I'll just touch on some of the information from the toolkit training that I do that I think is important for people to understand. So they're focusing on young kids. There's a quote in the training that I do, and I apologize, I'm looking down at this stuff to kind of get it out. There's a quote from Andrew Anglin, who is the editor of the neo-Nazi site, The Daily Stormer. All right. His quote says, "My site is mainly designed to target children for radicalization." If you find that interview and you go deeper into it, that quote continues to say that he was directing his message to children as young as 11 years old. All right. And they go for the disadvantaged kids, the ones who are vulnerable, the ones who are looking for a community. They're looking for belonging. So that's part of the issue. And another thing I'd like to point out, and I'm having trouble finding it in here, is some of the things you'll see, like a signs of something. I don't know if you know the cartoon Pepe the Frog. I'm sure you've probably seen that in your studies, as far as people using it for racist memes, and it's become a thing for white nationalists to use as cartoons, or yes. A guy they call Wojak, or the Feels guy. That's another one. So they're using kind of cartoon iconography to reach children. It kind of makes me think of back in the day when there was the whole issue around Joe Camel and directing that towards children to get them into smoking. All right. So they're going through that. And then also some of the other things, to look for, they use numbers a lot, like the number 14, which is the number of words in the kind of the white nationalist creed, or the number 88. 8 is the H is the 8th letter of the alphabet. So 88, 2 H's stands for Heil Hitler. So really just educating yourself to look for these kinds of signs of recruitment, and maybe that kids are getting into it. Also be aware that a lot of these things are happening online. And the big thing with COVID is that kids were online a lot without a lot of supervision. So there's gaming platforms, there's chat rooms like Discord and things like that. There's YouTube. And it's all made, one of the things is they use jokes, and then they have that plausible deniability of like, oh, it was just a joke, I didn't mean anything by it. And kids see that, and then they kind of dive into it. There was a YouTuber, I don't know if he's still popular or what, called PewDiePie. I don't know if you've ever heard of him, but he would interlace racist and anti-Semitic stuff into his YouTube videos. And he got called out for it on a number of different times. So like I said, I haven't looked to see if he's still viable or not. But again, it's a way of targeting children and to get their message out to a younger audience who may be a little more receptive to it without understanding exactly what's going on.
And all we want is a healing nation where everybody get along with one another.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That would be nirvana, wouldn't it?
Yes. Howard Mize, thank you very much for coming on Our Voices. Again, this message right here, I hope it reached somebody. I hope it touched somebody. And again, this right here, the subject alone, it is alarming. And I hope we all come together as one, because again, no kids should have to go through hatred.
Absolutely.
So, but again, Howard, thank you very much for coming to Our Voices. You take care, be safe, okay?
Well, thank you so much for having me, Ray. I appreciate this opportunity to talk with you.
Thank you. You take care.
Thank you. You too.
All right.